Lauren, city officials have said very little about the timing of this $27 million settlement between the city and the Floyd family. Today, though, some insight into why they announced this settlement at the same time as the criminal trial was just getting underway.
Mayor, this settlement has clearly had a negative effect on the criminal trial, at least selecting a jury. Why didn't you wait until after the criminal proceedings were over?
So first, I would disagree with the underlying premise.
They kicked two jurors out,
So
Mayor.
I would disagree with the underlying premise. We got very clear recommendations from our attorneys, given their legal expertise, and I'll note that it was a unanimous decision.
City Attorney Jim Router also disagreed that the settlement has impacted the criminal trial.
With regard to timing in general, there is no good timing to settle any case, particularly one as complex and as involved and sensitive as this. There's no guarantee, for instance, that that deal would be available 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks from now or 6 months from now. And we decided to move forward with the Floyd family when all was said and done.
Judge Peter Cahill this week called the timing of the settlement, quote, unfortunate, and 2 jurors were dismissed from the pool yesterday because of the way they perceived the settlement. It remains unclear if the chief judge in Hennepin County was consulted about the settlement timing. When asked further about the settlement, city officials denied to answer the question, citing instructions from Peter Cahill not to talk about this settlement anymore. While the settlement is approved by the city council, a federal court still needs to approve it as well. In Minneapolis, Chris Arabsky, KARE 11 News.